As the Russo-Ukraine war enters its third year, the performance of Russia's military, despite having the world's third-largest defense budget, is under scrutiny. Tanks like the T-80 are being asked to fight in a modern war and are paying a high price. Russian forces have heavily relied on tanks like the T-80, a Cold War-era vehicle initially developed from the T-64. Despite its innovative design in the 1970s, the T-80 has faced significant issues in the conflict. With approximately 700 units destroyed so far, the war's intensity and modern defensive measures have highlighted the vulnerabilities of these aging tanks, raising questions about the effectiveness and future of Russia's armored forces. As the Russo-Ukraine war enters year 3, special attention is being paid to the Russian military machine. President Vladimir Putin's forces, which benefit from the world's third-largest military budget, have chronically underperformed in Ukraine, raising questions about Russia's true military power. Russia's T-80 tank too old to fight in Ukraine? One machine the Russians have relied upon heavily in their pursuit of more Ukrainian territory is the tank. Tanks are ideal, in theory, for sweeping across geography like the plains of Eastern Europe to secure more territory. But Russia's use of its tank forces has not gone especially well. Thousands upon thousands of tanks have been destroyed. Many of these are outdated Cold War-era tanks inherited from the Soviet Union, like the T-80 main battle tank, which Russia has deployed heavily. The T-80 was derived from the T-64, which was built in the 1960s. Back then, the T-64 represented the latest available technology. It had novel features like composite armor, a smoothbore gun with an autoloader, and a compact engine, features that have since become commonplace. The T-64 was a head-turner. At just 38 tons, the T-64 was light and quick. Yet with the composites, still heavily armored, the T-64 had a drawback. However, the thing was expensive and complicated. Accordingly, the Soviets were limited in their ability to mass-produce the T-64, often failing to meet demand. Simpler, cheaper tanks like the T-72 were manufactured to supplement the need for high quantities of tanks. Another drawback of the T-64 was the engine. The tank's 5TD diesel engine was notoriously unreliable. Eventually the Soviets began considering revisions of the T-64, paying special attention to the beleaguered 5TD diesel engine. AT-64's 5TD was swapped for the GTD-1000T multi-fuel turbine engine, which offered 1,000 horsepower. The T-64 with the GTD engine was known as the Object 219. While engine performance was satisfactory, the increased weight of the tank prompted a suspension redesign. The T-64 built with the GTD engine and improved suspension was designated the Object 219-2. The Object 219-2 had its own drawbacks, specifically a very high fuel consumption. Nevertheless, after some controversy, the Object 219-2 prototype was approved for wide-scale production and redesignated as the T-80. Introducing the T-80. The T-80's updated engine and suspension allowed for an increased power-to-weight ratio relative to the T-64. This made the T-80 the most mobile tank in service with the Soviet Army. However, the engine consumed fuel at a rapid clip, limiting the tank's range. Thousands of T-80 tanks were produced before the Soviet Union collapsed, 4,839 to be exact. Russia still possesses the majority, but Ukraine absorbed their fair share of T-80s, too. The T-80 did not see much action until recently. During the Russo-Ukraine war, both sides have relied on tank warfare generally, and the T-80. Specifically, the Russians have already lost roughly 700 T-80 tanks since the war began. The T-80's survivability problems are a common theme. Russia has also sustained huge losses in equipment, NBC reported last December. With 2,200 tanks destroyed out of a force of 2,500 and one-third of its armored vehicles knocked out of action. The war has been brutal and grinding. The most vicious fighting on the European continent since the conclusion of World War II. Many of the defensive measures used in the fighting are modern and portable. So it should come as no surprise that a tank that was primarily designed in the 1970s is struggling to survive.